We are still in round number 8 of the Altibox Norway Chess tournament 2018, and looks like we are going to have a hell of a last round. To clarify, let's have a look at the standings, and let's get rid of Nakamura. Carlsen, and Aland were leading, and we already saw Magnus Carlsen draw his game, and Wesley So drew his game as well, and this means that some of these guys have a chance to catch up. Aronian did have a bye, so he can't catch up, but Nakamura is playing against Karjakin, and one of them can catch up to leaders. And let's see what went down in this game. Nakamura with the white pieces, Sergey Karjakin, Minister of Defense, the last challenger to the World Championship, with black, and we have c4, the English opening. Knight f6, and after knight c3, the most principled reply, e5. We have the 4 knights, g3, bishop b4. Now this is the way the English used to be played at the top levels, and you can find some games by Kasparov and Karpov in this line from their World Championship matches. Castles, castles, and now e4. Provocative move, as the pawn is now attacked by 3 pieces and will drop. So this forces bishop takes c3, which was played. B takes c3, capturing towards the center. Still attack on this pawn, but the rook e8 defends it. Now f3 challenges the pawn again, and there are choices here. E takes f3 was played in the game, but if you want to go down history, there were some games in the Kasparov-Karpov match where black goes e3, and here I can play d3 or d takes e3. Okay, of course d takes e3. White is up a pawn, but I mean he has 2 sets of double pawns, and the play is very, very dynamic. But none of that in this game. The Minister of Defense took an f3. Knight takes f3, d5, and now d4. Karjakin took on c4, but there's another famous historic game after knight e4. Garry Kasparov won a very quick and swift win against Vasily Ivanchuk in this line. After rook b1, f5 was played by Vasily, and now g4 undermining. Play very quickly became quite sharp, and Kasparov won a very nice game. Bishop d5 check, and his pieces came out quickly, and he actually won quite a few moves. But that's a different story. Sergey had something else prepared. He took on c4, bishop g5. After h6, I mean, why do you play bishop g5 if not to take? And knight d2 now, which is a novelty. You can find games from 2015 between Aronian and Anand, but this was what Nakamura had prepared. He was expecting queen g5 or queen g6. Queen g5 as the e3 square, and you know, some business on c3 maybe. So he thought perhaps queen e7 wasn't the best move, which is what Sergey played. This allows e4, and perhaps Sergey thought he could hang on to the pawn with knight to a5. He does have an extra pawn, but white now has a really, really strong central pawn duo. After knight a5, we can even push this pawn duo. That's the advantage of the pawn duo. It is dynamic, and you can push them whenever you need. Here e5 is more natural because you maintain this pawn chain, and you also open up a very nice square for your knight, where you can further, you know, give some problems to black on the king side. Here Nakamura thought that Karjakin had to try something active here, maybe c5, and he demonstrated some nice lines, such as if queen a4. He thought b6 was actually interesting for black. Sacking the exchange, But he thought if c5 he would just play knight e4 anyway. Knight is coming to d6. He was trying to take a c5, that's why take on d4. And if black tries to give back the exchange, he will hurt a little bit because the knight on a5 is undefended, loose pieces drop off, double attack. And basically Nakamura thought that bishop e6 was not a good move. I think he might even have used the word atrocious. And he thought, well, I think that's too strong, but he claimed that black could almost resign here. It's true though that white has a very nice position. He's down a pawn, but other than that, he has all the aces up his sleeve. And this knight here, its only job is protecting this pawn, and that's not a very good job. Rook a to d8 and queen h5. Now all the pieces are joining the attack, and white already has some vicious ideas of placing something on f6. It could be a bishop, it could be the knight, or it could be the rook. In case of rook f8 here to try to defend, it could be the rook. And this is very violent, just tracking rook takes h6. And if you take, I have a number of ways to win. I can take with a pawn, and the famous checkmate with the queen here is almost unavoidable. Karjakin played b5, but now the knight comes in, knight to f6. Now Karjakin didn't take this. If he does, he's in a world of hurt. This time around the queen has the f8 square available, so now we take with the rook, but now we're just taking here. This is coming in. Everything is incoming. You have all the pieces participating in the attack, and basically more or less only the queen defending, and black will not escape here. What to do really? We can try this, but rook takes h6, we have a threat here. Maybe queen g7 trying to defend, but bishop e4. I think even this was a line that Nakamura showed. I think he showed bishop to g4 here, queen h4, and yeah, rook h7 is coming. Game over. So Karjakin didn't take, he played king to h8, and of course white can take on e8 here, but Nakamura found a way to simplify a bit more. He played d5 first, and the idea becomes evident after we take everything. Bishop takes and the rook takes, and well, thinking of it now, white can also just take here and be up tons of material, but he took an e8. I mean, but if he takes here, maybe he was, yeah, there's queen c5 of course. Yeah, nice tactic, but the point of d5 was to undermine f7. And after knight takes e8, f7 is dropping, but Karjakin found a nice Suk. He's attacking the queen, and also the knight doesn't have an escape square. Nakamura took on f7. Let's get the real color here. So after yeah, d5, bishop takes d5, rook takes d5, knight takes e8, rook takes e5, and queen takes f7. Karjakin now takes on e8. At least now he's only done the exchange, and he does have 2 pawns for it. But after rook 8 to e1, the situation is quite bad. Now if you don't take, you try to keep the rook, then I'm just coming in. I'll play rook f7, and I'll start to double. Then you have to get your rook passive, and then I just start eating everything here. So a sad choice, but one that he had to make. He took an e1, and now, you know, even though you have 4 against 2, there's so much discoordination with your pawns. You can't really coordinate them, make a good pass pawn, and this means that white is just going to mop up the pawns with the rook eventually. Karjakin tried c5, and here a funny moment, as Nakamura was originally intending rook e5, expecting this, but then, you know, you just start picking up pawns. But there's knight b3. However, you don't have to take this knight, and you can just play rook e1 back, and and, you know, go from there. But if you take, there are some funny lines. C takes b3, and if you take on c5, there's a very nice breakthrough here. Can you find a good move for black here? Very reminiscent of Ortueta Sans, if you're familiar with that. But b4 is a very nice move here. The first point is c takes b4. Here I'm covering the c1 square, so the rook is not getting back, and the b pawn blocks the b file. The other attempt is rook e5, trying to get the rook back, but then it's well known that two connected pass pawns on your opponents on the 6th rank, you can't stop them with a rook. So this wins for black. But they don't have to take the rook, and Nakamura found a better way. He played king to f2, b4, and he simply allowed black to take on c3. Playing b3 actually doesn't accomplish much because you don't have any coordination. If you play b3, I'm guessing a4 should be okay. Maybe rook somewhere, rook e2, rook e, yeah. But I thought, I think here the king is just coming to block the pawn, and then you just send the rook on a mission to, you know, pick up the pawns. A nice buffet for the rook. But Karjakin took on c3. And now look at these pawns. Triple pawns, they're going to drop. Knight c6 was played, at least trying to get one pawn. And this is so winning that Nakamura said he even considered playing a4 here and just going for the king and pawn ending. And that would have been winning. A sample line, something like this. Or king h7 going for this pawn, but it's too late. King c6, a5 eventually. Well, yeah, a5 here to at least make white work for it, but you'll see that white is simply ahead. Okay, or takes here. This is very famous. That once you queen here, you cover the square on the end. If you've seen the search for Bobby Fischer, the movie, you should be familiar with this geometry. But he didn't go for this. He played rook takes c4, knight takes a2, rook takes c5, and now black wants to try to keep onto this pawn to preserve, you know, some drawing chances, but it's not to be. Rook c4, and now he will attack the pawn and win it. And this is actually completely winning here. The point is, black doesn't have any stable outpost for his knight. He's not well coordinated. Sometimes you can draw these positions with a bishop, but with a knight it's usually much tougher. And here Nakamura improves his king, then he brings his pawns, and actually at the g4 black resigned. And yeah, if you try something, king g8, the point is your knight is just dominated here, h5, and you will lose material. So yeah, a nice win by Nakamura, who, as you can see, he was on the even score, but now is on +1, along with Carlsen, and so very interesting. So now only one game left from the round, which I might have a look at, the game Anand against Caruana. Anyway, this was round 8, Nakamura against Karjakin. I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.